Good morning, Daily Huddle, and welcome to Money Monday. We have a great episode ahead of you. My name is Zack Otey, and this is my wife, Kimberly, and we are your hosts for today. We have a guest that's going to be visiting us up here he's in the upper left-hand corner of my screen, Mr. James Clifton. We'll introduce him properly shortly. But before we get started, we want to bring the meeting to order with a little presidential salute here that Kimberly has worked up for you guys, going all the way back to her elementary school days.
No, it was high school.
High school days. All right.
In high school, I took AP history, and we had to answer, the presidents and their terms on our AP exam. So in order to do so, and today is President's Day, we learned this song, so I'm going to sing it for you. I know you're going to want to record me later, so you can.
Oh, you're recorded now.
Oh, good. Awesome.
Don't worry.
All right, so here we go.
Right over here.
George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, Martin Van Buren, William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, James K. Polk, Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan, Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Johnson, Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, James A. Garfield, Chester A. Arthur, Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harrison, Cleveland came back again, William McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, Woodrow Wilson, Warren G. Harding, Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Lyndon B. Johnson, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, and Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, and Bill Clinton. And then we added some because that was my high school, right? So we obviously have George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Trump, and Biden. So these are the men who have served us as presidents, chief executives leading the way. We will salute them in presidential order. The presidents of the USA.
All right.
Okay, that's it. I'll never do that again. I hope you guys loved our song, my song.
Yeah, it was not my song.
Next time you can actually hear Zach's voice, not mine, but today is President's Day. So thank you guys for joining us on the Daily Huddle. I'm Kimberly, this is Zach, and we're the host of Money Mondays. And we have James Clifton, one of our really good friends, joining us today. He is an attorney in Atlanta. So I'm going to read his little bio so you guys have a proper introduction to him, and then we're going to get started. But before we do that, we have some questions of the day, and Zach is going to do that for me.
All right, let's see. I'm going to start. See, this is weird because you guys don't see the same screen I do. We're all in tiles, but I'm going to go to my right, and I'm going to start with Stan. Stan, what time is it, and what are you grateful for?
The time is now, and I'm grateful for being in the now.
Absolutely. That is where we are, and that's what we celebrate, right? And
Right.
Let's go here. Thank you. Let's keep going to my right, and I will go to Chase. Where are you, and who will you hug today?
I'm right here. Yes, Kimberly, you rocked it.
I know you want to record me. You want to sing with me later, Chase.
It was the way you delivered it. That was so awesome. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm right here, and I'm gonna hug myself today because I need to hug myself today. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Sorrel, how are you after that experience?
I am just ecstatic, and this is the way I say I am.
I remember most of them.
Loving it.
That's great. Well, we're excited to see all of you, and we've got some good stuff ahead of you.
So today we're going to talk to James Clifton, and the question of the day is, what can I do if my debt is overwhelming me? So a little bit about James. He's the founding member of the Clifton law firm. His areas of focus are contract law, real estate, landlord-tenant foreclosure, probate, wills, trusts, and estates. The firm also handles car accidents, divorce, bankruptcy, and criminal defense cases. Mr. Clifton's licensed to practice in Georgia, Florida, California, Texas, and Washington, D.C., and is a member of the bar of the United States Supreme Court and can take your case to the highest and most powerful court in America. That's kind of cool, James. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Welcome,
thank you.
welcome. Thanks for
Yeah, I
joining
appreciate
us
that.
today.
I'm happy to be here. And I actually want to take a 1 second to brag on my son, Julian.
Does he know the song?
Well, he doesn't know the song, but when he was 16 months old, I kid you not, we recorded him. He knows all the presidents and has known them since he was 16 months old. And he was actually featured on Channel 2 News here in Atlanta because that video went viral. So he's a special little boy. But on President's Day, that when you sang that song, it reminded me of him going through the presidential list and knowing each of the presidents. So
You'll have
you
to.
did a great job.
That's
We'll,
awesome.
we'll do a contest. We'll see.
There you go. Oh, he might make me sweat a little more. So we'll have to, like when this is recorded and put on Facebook, you'll have to put that clip of him.
Yeah,
So we can all,
I'll
we can
clip,
all
I'll clip
have
it
a,
and put,
a sing off.
yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Awesome.
Well, good.
Well, thanks for joining us today. So tell me, what can I do if my debt is overwhelming me? Let's talk about that question.
Yeah, so first I want to talk about some of the common reasons how people start to get overwhelmed by debt. So in my practice, what we see often is that there's a change in life circumstances that precedes the debt becoming an overwhelming burden on the person. Some of the most common are loss of job or decrease in income. So right now in the economy, we're seeing layoffs more common, even though we're adding jobs each month, we're seeing increasing in layoffs. So there are some people out there that are, seeing that reduction of income from a layoff, or you may be in a sector where, or you're in sales, real estate, mortgage lending, we're seeing a pretty big reduction in volume. And so those people who were having really good years for the last 3 or 4 years, they were accustomed to making 6-figure income, maybe looking at $20,000 or $30,000, $40,000 as their income this year. And they've amassed debt based on their prior 3 or 4 years of earnings. And now their current earnings aren't keeping up with their debt. Another big issue we see is medical bills. It's actually the nation's largest, sadly, it's the nation's largest cause of bankruptcy. It's still the leading cause of bankruptcy in America today. Another issue we see is a loss of a loved one. So if you have, a 15-year history of, or 20, 30, 50-year history of relying on your partner or spouse's income, and then you lose that spouse and now you're living on a single income household, your debt obviously is gonna, it doubles in comparison to if you had, equitable earnings to what it used to be. And one other thing that I want to talk about real quick is since COVID in 2020, we have actually been seeing a twofold increase in the death rate in young people from 18 to 39, which is, it's a startling number that we don't really see talked about a lot. But the life insurance companies and who we work with often, they see that on their back end and they realize, and so the point being is that young people can encounter this, and if it's a loved one, and they need to be prepared for it. So, like putting your will in place, getting your medical directive in place, your power of attorney, durable power of attorney for finances. All those are important aspects, even for young people to take a look at. And obviously, my firm helps with that too. And if you've lost a loved one, we help with the probate process to get you, kind of settled into this new life that you're going to have to adapt to. Another economic pressure that we're seeing that is leading to the debt becoming overwhelming is inflation. It is sticky. Inflation is sticky. The Fed has continued to raise interest rates, but I think we're down to 6.1 year over year inflation. But sadly, this month, we're actually at plus 0.4 month over month inflation, which is not a good indicator. And so inflation causes the cost of utilities, the cost of groceries, all of that increases, while sometimes your income does not. So you're facing mounting pressure from external forces while your income's staying the same. And then last, rising interest rates. So if you have any variable rate interest loans like credit card debt, much fewer mortgage loans are now variable interest rate.
What's your
But-
equity loans?
Yeah, your home equity loans, a lot of times are. I actually just looked at a house that's for sale that has an adjustable rate loan. So they're still out there. And those definitely, with rates increasing, every quarter, are causing, again, debts to rise disproportionate to income. And so that's putting a lot of pressure on people. So one of the first signs that people often see their debt overwhelming them is they get behind on credit cards. Those are your, when you don't have disposable income, your credit card becomes your disposable income. You want to go on a trip, you put it on a credit card. You want to see a concert, you put it on a credit card. And what we see is, as finances tighten and you don't have as much income to pay for your recurring bills, we see your credit cards start to get behind. And sadly, the credit card is one of the most expensive things to get behind on from an interest rate perspective. Credit card interest rates are at an all-time high right now, or I can't say all time. They're at an extremely high rate right now. 21%, I think, or just under 21% was the interest rate on the average credit card, which is insane compared to like a mortgage rate, which right now is about right around 6%, maybe a little more than 6%. So, having a lot of credit card debt is really just building interest up to pay the credit card company back. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. So total debt in America is at an all-time high. I think it just hit $1 trillion, that's a crazy number. We've never seen it before. And so you're not alone out there. There's a lot of people that are dealing with significant credit card debt right now. So when we talk about credit card debt, there's a few options on how to start dealing with it. The first option, always, whenever you feel overwhelmed with debt, is to take a hard look at your finances. If you're not good with finances, find someone who you trust that is good with finances to help you come up with a budget to try and figure out a way to pay, start getting your credit cards back on track, because you don't want to be racking up that 20% interest, 21% interest per month. So that's your first line of attack. Second, once you've figured out your finances and your budget, if you still can't find a way to make manageable credit card payments where you're paying down the actual debt along with the interest, because if you're just paying the interest, your credit card debt's never going to go away. It's just going to continue on forever. So you want to find a way to pay off debt and interest. And if you can't do that, you need to reach out to the credit card company directly. A lot of times they will help you. They'll work with you. If you say, look, I need to close off this account, will you work with me on just closing it off and taking, a lower payment total for what I owe you, or setting me up on some sort of other payment plan where you find you find a HELOC where at a much lower rate, if you have home equity in your home, where you can pay off this 20% interest credit card with a 6%, 7% interest HELOC on your home. That way you're accruing interest debt at a much lower rate than you were before. And so that you approach the credit card company. There's also some companies that assist with repayment plans and things like that. You need to be careful about that though, because oftentimes your repayment plan is it's set up for failure. I've worked with those companies before, and the expectations that they what they tell you and what the actual realistic expectations are very different. And so very few of those, in my experience, have been successful in resolution. And so last we come to what we get called most often about is bankruptcy. So credit card debt is what's known as unsecured debt, meaning it is not secured against your house or your car or anything like that. So it is fully dischargeable in bankruptcy. So if you file bankruptcy, there's two types of bankruptcy. There's Chapter 7, that's a liquidation, and there's Chapter 13, and that's an individual restructuring of your debt. So there's a test that you have to perform called the means test, where you essentially look at how much your income is versus how much your debts are. And that determines whether you can go into a Chapter 7 liquidation or Chapter 13 restructure. And so if you qualify for the Chapter 7, like you've completely lost your job, your debts are absolutely overwhelming, then that means you can essentially wipe away these credit cards for good. Bankruptcy hits your credit score hard. It does. And it stays on it for a little while. But if you're up against the wall where, you know, your last resort is to get these credit cards removed so that you can continue to pay your car and your house note, then, you know, you have to make the best financial decision for you.
And not paying those cards hits your credit too. So
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. You're already looking at a credit hit from being delinquent on your credit cards or your car payment or your mortgage anyway. So you're already on the downward trend. So you can essentially rip the Band-Aid off, get it over with, and start new. That's the whole point of bankruptcy. Very successful and wealthy people have taken bankruptcy and used it to their advantage. That's the whole point of it, is to give people, and they know that it's a fresh start. It's a chance to start over and work towards a new future. So don't be ashamed of bankruptcy. It happens. People need it. So use it to your advantage when you need it, and don't let it be a stigma preventing you from using it.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the things when you think about credit pressure, and I appreciate what James is saying very, very much. But one of the things we talk about, obviously, is helping people to not get behind and how to be those financial advisors that structure things and work with you and make sure that works. But the reality of it is some things are out of our control. And when you deal with credit pressure, one of the big concerns is mental health, right? It's feeling less worthy. It's feeling like you're less of a person, because those phone calls can be very harassing, and they can be they can beat you down, right? And so our goal is not for people to take advantage of this that shouldn't, or to not pay their bills. We want healthy financial decisions out there, but at the same time, we want mentally healthy individuals that can live a happy life, realizing that money isn't everything, and that a fresh start sometimes is the best thing that you can do. One of the best things I think about the bankruptcy protection scenario is that those people have to stop calling you.
Yeah,
absolutely. Once that is in place, right, James?
Yeah, absolutely. So all credit collection stops, all lawsuits stop, it's called the automatic stay, and it is instituted by the bankruptcy court, and it has penalties if people violate it. So if they're still harassing you after you file bankruptcy, they can get in trouble for that. So and that's a great point, that those collection calls really get very overbearing and can definitely beat you down. Absolutely. Good point.
Yeah.
So the bankruptcy is like, that's your last resort essentially to credit card debt, but it's the ultimate exonerator from debt. It makes it go away. You just have, obviously, the credit issue with your decreasing credit score because of it is the one thing you have to deal with. The big issue you have to deal with there. Another sign that you're getting overwhelmed by your debt is you get behind on your car payments. So it's what we're seeing. We deal in real estate a lot. Is I was mentioning in the reasons for being overwhelmed in debt is you see a decrease in income. So real estate agents like to look flashy, and when they're making good money, they're driving nice cars. The G-Wagon is one of the most repossessed cars right now. And luxury cars are getting repossessed too. And my initial thought was it's probably coming from people in real estate because they enjoy those, and crypto. That's another area that saw a pretty heavy decline last year. And so car repossession, getting behind on your car payment is another issue that we're seeing with the debt becoming overwhelming. So some options that you have when you get behind on your car payment, again, you want to first contact your lender, whether it's a local credit union or the auto finance company. Capital One is one of the biggest auto finance companies out there, and they're still going pretty strong on auto finance. Interest rates on cars are the highest they've been in many, many years. So, that's getting more expensive. But what I've seen is that there is some hesitance in the marketplace to continue to lend at the current rate on cars. I just saw a pretty large auto finance company just said that they're not, for starting Wednesday, they're no longer offering auto finance, period, anymore. And back on credit cards real quick, Goldman Sachs, who is one of the largest credit card debt holders in America, they just issued a statement last week saying that they're not increasing their credit card debt portfolio. And I think that may be some government pressure on them, that they're so over leveraged on credit card debt. The government probably said, if you guys see a big default on this, then, based on bankruptcy filings, we may not bail you out if you continue to lend to consumers at this kind of rate. So, but in car, we're seeing the same kind of pressure in auto financing too, in that, again, so when you find yourself in default on the vehicle, the first thing you have to worry about is repossession. I mean, in Georgia and most states, they just come straight for the car. They hold title when you finance title. They hold title so they can come get it whenever they want it. It's theirs, not yours. Until you pay it off, it is theirs. You're just borrowing it. So again, what ways to combat this is, first you want to contact them, see if there's any kind of forbearance plan or modification plan where you can get your, if you need to restructure your payments to kind of put them back into place where they need to be, do that. And then also, values are up on used cars. They were up 47% year over year for a while there, and now they've come down a little bit. But January they're up again. I think they're up like 10% this month, which is month over month. This is an insane number. A lot of that may be driven by tax refunds, but we'll see how that plays out in the long term. So you can actually return your car that's too expensive for you, and you may actually, oddly enough, which we don't see often, have equity or at least a position good enough to get out completely out from under your debt, not be under your debt when you return your car, and get something more affordable. So that's an option. Obviously, if you're afraid the repo man is on your front door, you can always file bankruptcy again, and that'll stop the repossession, put that automatic stay in place to give you time to figure out if you want to reaffirm the car debt or turn it over and get something new. And so I don't want to run out of time, so I'm going to talk quick through this last one. Default in housing is one of the things that we see. Typically, that's the one people reserve for last. They make sure that, they'll let their credit cards get behind, let their car payment get behind, but they don't want to get behind on their rent or their mortgage. But it happens. At some point, the economic downward pressure is so strong that you may be behind on your rent or mortgage. If you're renting, try and work something out with your landlord. If your landlord is an individual who only owns 1 or 2 investment properties, they're much more likely to work with you on getting back to, an even field on your payments by giving you a few hundred dollars off per month for the next few months, and then adding it back over time for the few months after that. So don't be afraid to talk to your landlord. If it's a big apartment complex, national company like Post or whatever, less likely that that's going to work, but it never hurts to try. Sure. And then if you're completely behind on it, you're facing eviction. The eviction in Georgia and in most states is very quick. It's a quick process. It takes less than 30 days. So you really need to have plans for alternate arrangements if you get that eviction notice taped on your front door. So So that's what you need to know about eviction. And then foreclosure. This is actually what we're seeing a pretty big uptick in business at my firm is foreclosure defense cases. We work pretty heavily in Florida and Georgia. Florida is a much easier state to mount a foreclosure defense because it's a judicial foreclosure state where you actually can put your arguments in front of the court. In Georgia, it's a non-judicial foreclosure. So it, again, is a quick process, usually occurring once you're delinquent 90 days, you missed 3 months of payments. The foreclosure process only takes about 45 days after that. So again, you have to be ready to move if you're that late in the process. However, I got some good news for you. There's some options. So first, we can work on loan modification. So loan modification is that opportunity to talk to the lender, get approved for lower payments over a longer time. If that doesn't work, that's okay too. A lot of people still have equity in their homes. So you can sell and cash out your equity, find something more affordable or rent for a year or two, rebuild your credit a little bit, and then go back into the real estate market. We actually, my firm, I started a real estate brokerage designed to help people in situations like this called Area Attorney Real Estate Associates. That's a real estate brokerage that helps people in situations like this sell their house, avoid the foreclosure. Our attorneys work to stop the foreclosure while you're selling, give you the opportunity to sell, cash in your equity, and then put it into a new house or an apartment until you can get your finances in order again.
Awesome.
If you're underwater, you can short sale, which means you're selling your house for less than you owe to the bank. Again, you want somebody knowledgeable on the process to help you with the application of, because you have to prove some sort of circumstances out of your control that are causing you to have to sell it for less than that you owe on it, but they will approve that if you can prove that, and that's something that you want to work with an attorney on. And then a deed in lieu of foreclosure is an option if you just need to wipe your hands of it, say I'm out. You can always, if the lender approves it and your title's still clean to the house, you can hand it back to the bank and they'll take it from you. It'll save you some credit, your credit score a little bit. And then finally, if you really just need to buy time, your credit cards are really high, you're in foreclosure, a bankruptcy may be your best option in that case too, to get rid of your underlying credit card debt. And that frees up a lot of money to pay your mortgage. And so you just have to worry about your mortgage, your car, and groceries and utilities at that point. So that pretty much is a really quick rundown of what you can do if your debt is overwhelming you. I could go on all day about this. This is what I do. Every day I sit behind my desk and talk about this stuff. So I explain this to clients all day long. So yeah, but if you guys have any questions.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I know Stan's got his hand up. So Stan, you've got a question for us. So go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, James, thank you so much for that information. Really great. I hope you guys hear me well. I'm pretty clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm still a little bit confused about the chapter 7 and 13. Now, I don't think you really spoke about 13, did you? Or did you only refer to 7?
Right.
Which one?
So
That's
13,
what my question is.
Sure, absolutely. 13 is when you make the bankruptcy court deems that you make enough to pay off a lot of your debt. So you can't liquidate your debt and say, I'm done with it. The bank actually puts you through a 5-year restructuring where you have to pay off a portion of your debt, your credit card debts and your unsecured debts. All your secured debts, like your car and your home, you still, even in chapter 7, you still have to, if you want to keep those, you still have to pay them. But your unsecured debts in a chapter 13, you have to pay back some of that too. So the chapter 13 debt is not completely wiped out. So it depends on how much you make and how much debt you have. They will determine how much you have to pay back of that debt. Does that make sense?
James, actually it does. Now, a car note would be considered a secured debt, wouldn't it?
It is a secured debt. Yes, your house and your car are secured debt because they're secured by the title to the home and the title to the vehicle. Yep, that's exactly right.
Right. Yeah,
and so those have
you go right
to be
ahead.
paid back. Yeah, if you want to keep those have to be paid back. So you can, they will often work with you to modify your loan through the bankruptcy. You can do that on either your home or your car, but you have to be prepared to reaffirm your debt. That's what's called a reaffirmation agreement, to reaffirm your debt on your car or in your home in order to keep them, or else they will ask the bankruptcy court for relief from that automatic stay, and then they'll do the repossession or do the foreclosure.
Okay, then, because that still sounds like to a degree like the 13, just that in the 13, you have to sell off. You have to sell off, correct? And in the
It
7,
depends. So in 7, you may have to sell off in certain circumstances too. It all depends
Okay.
on how your debts compare to your assets. So the
Gotcha.
bankruptcy court, if you
Okay.
have $1 million in assets, the bankruptcy court's not going to let you keep all that
Gotcha.
to the effect to wipe out your creditors. So they look at your debts versus your assets. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so they will look at how much equity you have. And what we're typically dealing with is situations where in a 7 where your house has very little equity and your car has no equity, that's when there's not gonna be a sale or anything like that. If you owe $10,000 on $1 million home and you have $500,000 in credit card debt, they're gonna make you sell your $1 million home and buy something else. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So
Yeah,
guys,
okay.
I hate to. Go ahead, James.
Well, I'm just saying they look at it very equitably. They look at it, make sure that you're not going to do anything that would, undermine any confidence of creditors in the future. They make a very equitable determination about that.
Well, thank you guys so much. James, I appreciate you being here. Obviously a wealth of knowledge and information in our chat. You guys, James's website is in there as well as his name, so you guys can see that. Obviously this will be recorded and be available later on as well. So as we finish up today and we say thank you guys very much, I want to read our 8 tenets very quickly before we sign off. So remember, guys, love, laugh out loud, stress less, right? Money's not the end of the world. It doesn't create it and it won't end it. So eat mostly plant-based, take care of your body, give, sleep, move, get up and get out of here. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, guys. So just stay good here. And we will see you tomorrow on the Daily Huddle. Thanks again for your time.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
James.
Thank you, James, so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Bye.
Thank you.